Hello students, welcome to the Hindu News Analysis by Baji IAS Academy. In this session, we will discuss some of the most important and relevant news articles important for both UPSC and state PSC examinations. Please, before actually discussing these news articles, please subscribe to the Bajirao IAS Academy YouTube channel so that you will get all important updates regarding our classes. Okay, so these are the list of very important and relevant news articles for today's discussion. The first very important news article is a ground view of the Indian space policy. See, recently the government of India and Indian Space Research Organization have come up with new India Space Policy 2023. Okay, so this space policy clearly mandates rules and responsibilities of various organizations, whether it is about Department of Space, whether it is the role of ISRO or Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. So there were various organizations, and it has mandated the roles, responsibilities of the organizations, and it has also envisioned the role of space technology in the socio-economic development and of our nation, and it also envisioned the greater private sector participation. Okay, so the next very important news article is the fallout of Putin helping make NATO great again. So as part of this article, we will try and understand what exactly is NATO, when it was formed. See, in recent past, because of the Russia-Ukraine war, the NATO has become more and more, you know, it is more and more seen in news. So therefore, we will discuss about NATO. And also recently, Finland became the part of NATO. Earlier, they were the Nordic countries. They were not aligned either with the US or with the European Union or with the Russia. But now Finland has joined NATO as a 31st member of this grouping. So as part of this article, we will try and understand how NATO has been expanding towards the Eastern Europe and what will be the implications on India because of this. And the next important article is Delhi versus Center. The question is, who has the control over the bureaucrats? See, there was a very often there was a conflict between the center and the Delhi government, okay, over the various matters. Earlier also, the Supreme Court Constitution bench has given directions that there should be a collaborative federalism between the center and state and Delhi when it comes to overall administrative structure. However, the matter again heard by the Constitution bench of the Supreme Court, and this is particularly about the control over bureaucrats, whether it is about the administrative control of the bureaucrats or the functional control of the bureaucrats. So we will discuss what exactly the issue between the center and the Delhi government. Okay, so next important article is India US to strengthen G20 cooperation during Modi visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit USA. Now we all know that this year, India holds the presidency of the G20 summit. So, in this article, we will try and understand the wide variety of relationship between India and USA. Study of sludge finds high potential for use as fertilizer for after treatment. This is a form of biofertilizer. This can be used as a biofertilizer, and this will give a further fillip or impetus to organic farming. Okay, organic farming. So in order to treat the urban solid or a liquid waste, the sewage water treatment facilities are being set up or given importance across different urban centers. Okay, so these sewage urban centers or sewage urban facilities, sewage management facilities also resulting in sludge generation. Okay, this sludge can be used as a biofertilizer, and that will further give impetus to organic farming efforts and reduce the dependence on chemical fertilizers. Very often that is the source of the soil erosion, okay, or soil fertility reduction. Indian Council of Medical Research conduct a trial run on bag delivery by drone. Okay, the ICMR has delivered blood bag through drones. Okay, so this is the iDrone initiative of ICMR. So ICMR has not just delivered blood bags through drones, but it has also been testing delivery of vaccines and other medical essentials through drones. So we will understand what is iDrone initiative of Indian Council of Medical Research. So this is the first important news article, a ground view of the Indian space policy. So we will discuss what exactly Indian space policy and what are the important feature of Indian space policy and what are the gaps or the shortcomings of this space policy. Okay, so please understand this is some of the important features of Indian space policy. So, Indian Space Policy 2023 was approved by the Cabinet Committee on Security. Okay, so this was first approved by the Cabinet Committee on Security. Okay, so this policy particularly seeks to institutionalize private sector participation in the space sector, in the Indian space sector. Okay, so India has been trying to tap the potential of private sector in space arena. Okay, so therefore, Indian Space Policy 2023 seeks to institutionalize the private sector participation in the Indian space sector. So, with ISRO focusing on research and development of advanced space technologies. Okay, so most of the activities now currently undertaking by the ISRO will be given to the private sector. Okay, a greater role for the private sector, and ISRO will mostly focus on research and development of advanced technologies. Okay, advanced space technology, for example, interplanetary missions, human space flight missions, Shukriyan or Aditya L1 mission. So ISRO will focus on such a high technology oriented and advanced research and development programs. Okay, so some of the major provisions of the Indian Space Policy 2023. So what are those provisions of Indian Space Policy 2023? This policy will pave the way forward with a much required clarity on space reforms. Okay, so this policy will provide clarity on space reforms, and this policy will also augment the private industry. Okay, private industry, increase the private sector participation in the space arena, and this policy will also help drive the space economy and opportunities. It generate new opportunities for the country as a whole. Okay, so delineation of rules, we have discussed earlier also. This policy has delineated rules and responsibilities for various organizations. That includes Indian Space Research Organization and space sector public sector undertakings like New Space India Limited. This was also created by the government of India in order to replace the earlier commercial arm of Antrix. Okay, earlier commercial arm of Antrix of ISRO. This is of ISRO. Okay, this is public sector undertaking of New Space India Limited and Indian National Center for Space Promotion and Authorization Center, along with the roles and responsibilities of Department of Space. Okay, so the operational part of ISRO's mission will be moved to the New Space India Limited. Okay, so whatever the operational part ISRO has will be moved to the New Space India Limited. Okay, so entry of the private sector into this space. The policy will allow the private sector to take part in end-to-end activities. Okay, end-to-end private activities. And ISRO will eventually focus on advanced research and development and high technology oriented missions. Okay, so the areas where the private sector will participate include building satellites, rockets, launch vehicles, data collection, and dissemination activities. Data collection and dissemination activities are some of the activities where India's private sector will take part in. Okay, now understand the article. Okay, so Indian Space Policy 2023 and what exactly this article has been discussing about. On April 20, ISRO released Indian Space Policy. Okay, ISRO released Indian Space Policy 2023. Okay, however, this document has been received with the positivity and optimism by the industry. Okay, so the private sector space industry. So, however, this Space Policy 2023 should be followed by suitable legislation, and it should be accompanied by clear rules and regulations for its successful implementation, and this is what the author has been stressing upon. Okay, so along with that, the author has also discussed the journey of Indian space program right from 1990s. Okay, right from 1990s. What he is saying that until the early 1990s, Indian space industry and the space economy were defined by ISRO itself. There was a very minutest private sector participation in the space arena. So until 1990, the space economy and the space industry were primarily defined by ISRO. There was a limited private sector engagement or limited private sector activity in designs and specifications. Okay, there was a very limited private sector engagement or the private sector participation. We are into the second space age. Okay, now we are into the second space age, where in the second space age, private sector has been seeking active cooperation, or private sector wanted to participate in India's space activities. Okay, so the second space age began with licensing of private TV channels. Okay, it has begun with the licensing of private TV channels, explosive growth of internet. Now we are using the 5G services. Okay, now we are using the 5G, 4G to 5G, fourth generation to fifth generation transformation. Okay, explosive growth of internet and mobile telephony, emergence of smartphones. Okay, so the advent of the second space age can be traced from the licensing of private TV channels, explosive growth of internet, mobile telephony, and emergence of smartphones. Okay, however, if you if you remember, ISRO's total budget is dollars 1.6 billion. Okay, total budget of ISRO is around 1.6 billion. However, India's space economy amounts to dollars 9.6 billion. Okay, total India space economy is valued at 9.6 billion. However, in future, because of the broadband, OTT, over the top 5G promise a double digit growth for ISRO or Indian space economy or space based services. Okay, so broadband, OTT, and 5G services will promise a double digit annual growth in satellite based services in the future. However, it is estimated that the enabling environment provided by the government, okay, so there should be an enabling environment for Indian space sector. Okay, if the government is able to create the enabling environment, the space industry could grow 60 billion by the year 2030. Okay, around 60 billion dollar by the year 2030. So it will also directly create around 2 lakh employment opportunities. Please remember, this is a direct employment creation opportunities. So when you write answers for the mains, especially for the science and technology section, please also write these numbers. Okay, please also use these numbers so that your answer look well and more, authentic. So, Indian space policy or the enabling or conducive environment will create a $60 billion, or would make the industry grow $60 billion by the year 2030, and it would also create 2 lakh direct jobs or the 2 lakh direct employment opportunities. However, a remote sensing data policy was introduced in the year 2001. Government of India introduced a remote sensing policy, a separate remote sensing policy, and this remote sensing policy has amended in the years 2011 and 2016. And this remote sensing data policy was replaced by National Geospatial Policy, and this was further liberalized in the year 2022. Okay, so National Remote Sensing Policy or the Remote Sensing Data Policy was introduced in the year 2001, and this was replaced by National Geospatial Policy, and this National Geospatial Policy was further liberalized in the year 2022. However, despite having such a National Geospatial Policy, India's defense agencies, India's security agencies spend nearly half a billion dollar or billion dollar annually to procure earth observation data and imagery from foreign sources. Despite India having national geospatial policy, India's security agencies and the defense agencies have been using at least $1 billion, at least using $1 billion to procure earth observation data and imagery from the foreign sources. So this has been clearly pointing out that the national geospatial policy has not been effectively catering to the India's needs. Okay, it has not been catering to the India's needs. Still, India's defense and security agencies have been procuring the data from the foreign sources. However, to streamline matters, a draft space activities bill. So, in order to address all these issues which we have discussed right now, okay, so in order to address all these issues, or to streamline all these issues, a draft space activities bill. Okay, this draft space activities bill will consist of the facilitation provisions, the regulatory provisions, everything. Okay, so this bill was brought in 2017. Okay, so this bill went through a long consultative process. After this introduction of this bill went through a long consultative process, and however, in the year 2019, this bill was lapsed. This bill was not passed by the parliament because of with the outgoing Lok Sabha, this bill was also lapsed. However, it is expected that in the year 2021, the government will come up with a new bill. Okay, new space activities bill. The government was expected to introduce a new space bill in the year 2021, but it appears to have contended itself with a new policy statement. Okay, so new policy statement has released. The government has not yet passed the space activities bill. Okay, so new space policy 2023. So what exactly the features of the new space policy 2023, and what are the areas which it has focused and prioritized? Okay, so overall vision of the Indian space policy 2023 is to enable, encourage, develop a flourishing commercial presence of in space. Okay, so the vision of the Indian space policy 2023 is enable, encourage, and develop a flourishing commercial presence in the space. Okay, what is a flourishing commercial presence? Increasing private sector participation, increasing private sector participation in space. Okay, increasing private sector participation in space. Private sector is a critical stakeholder, and this policy has also identified private sector as a critical stakeholder in the entire value chain of space economy. Okay, in the entire value chain of space economy, private sector has been identified as a critical stakeholder. However, it makes 5 points, or it identifies five priority areas or key areas. So they include, it defines India's role. Okay, it defines role in India's socio-economic development and security. Okay, so what is the role of the space activities in India's the socio-economic development and also security and defense, and protection of environment, protection of lives, disaster management, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, biodiversity conservation. Okay, biodiversity conservation. In all these areas, the potential of the space sector has been identified or made it a priority by the Indian Space Policy 2023. Okay, so along with this, pursuing peaceful exploration of outer space, pursuing peaceful exploration of outer space is also a priority under Indian Space Policy 2023. So apart from this, stimulation of public awareness and scientific quest is also made part of Indian Space Policy 2023. So these are the five priority or key areas which have been made part of India's new space policy. Okay, so this policy document, Indian space policy document, has also mentioned about different aspects. Okay, so they include first security. Okay, so this policy document focuses on civilian and peaceful applications of space technology. So apart from that, because in recent past, the space based intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, communication, positioning, navigation capabilities are increasing. Okay, are increasing, and they are also considered as very critical for our defense forces. Okay, so therefore the policy rightly identifies the role of space in security. And secondly, the policy has also lays down strategy and rules for Department of Space, ISRO, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. It was set up in the year 2020. Okay, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. So this is a regulatory body. Okay, please remember this is a regulatory body. And apart from that, New Space India Limited. New Space India Limited replaces the defunct Antrix. This is actually the commercial wing of ISRO, and New Space India Limited replaces the defunct Antrix. However, apart from the above mentioned strategy, rules, and the role of space in security, it also states that ISRO will make a transition. Okay, ISRO will make a transition out of the existing practice of being present in the manufacturing of operational space systems. Okay, we have also earlier also discussed that the private sector participation will be encouraged, will be promoted in the different areas, for example satellite building and satellite launches, etc. So ISRO will focus on advanced technology operations or interplanetary missions, so high end research and development. Okay, so thereafter mature systems already developed by ISRO shall be transferred to the industries for commercial exploitation. Okay, so the systems which are already developed by ISRO will be transferred to the private sector for the commercial exploration, and ISRO shall focus on research and development of advanced technologies. So this includes the interplanetary missions, the human space flights, and missions like Shukrayaan, Gaganyaan, Chandrayaan 3. So ISRO will primarily focuses on the advanced technology aspects, and it will probe newer systems and realization of space objects for meeting national prerogatives or national, importance issues. Now, it has also identified the private sector's role. Okay, the new space policy has also identified the private sector's role. Private sector allowed to undertake end-to-end activities. Okay, private sector has allowed to undertake the end-to-end activities in space sector, so through operation of space objects and ground-based assets and related services. So they include communication, remote sensing, navigation, etc. So the entire gamut of space activities will also be open to India's space sector. Okay, different kind of a space activities which are already developed by ISRO will be open to the private sector as well, and this has identified and this has been mentioned in the space policy, new space policy 2023. New Space Policy 2023. However, this policy has a certain gaps. Okay, this policy has certain gaps, and this article has also discussed about those gaps. The policy sets out ambitious role for Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, but there is no time frame. Okay, it has no time frame necessary, no time for the necessary steps ahead. So when it lacks no time frame, then there is no clarity. Okay, there is no clarity over the policy and how it go ahead in this the space facilitation or space regulation. And apart from this, there is no indicative timeline for ISRO also. Okay, we have discussed the ISRO will make a transition from existing activities to high technology or advanced technology and research based activities, and for this also there is no indicative timeline for ISRO transitioning out of its current practices. And it is not enough because we urgently need a time frame. Okay, either it is with respect to inspects or either it is respect to transition of ISRO, we need a proper time frame, and that provide necessary legal framework. Okay, so earlier the draft national space legislation was introduced, and that draft national space bill was not passed. Okay, so therefore a legal framework to translate the vision into reality. There is a need for a legal framework. India does not have a legal framework, even though we have the policy framework. The author has been suggesting that we should have a proper legal framework to translate this vision into a reality. Okay, so this will also help India successfully transforming into the second space age. So we need a policy, and we also come up with a policy, but the policy has a certain gaps. Okay, there is no time frame or the no timeline, or either on the part of the ISRO or on the part of Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. Okay, so along with filling up the existing gaps and the policy document on the space activities, we also require a comprehensive legislative framework. Okay, that will help us make successful transition into the second space age. Okay, so this is all about this article. Next, let's jump into the next news article. See, this is about NATO, the fallout of Putin helping NATO great again. The fallout of Putin helping make NATO great again. So this is with respect to the recently Finland has become the 31st member. Okay, Finland became the 31st member of NATO. However, Sweden has also been showing interest. Sweden has also been showing interest to be part of NATO. However, Sweden is not yet become part of NATO. However, it is under the the ratification process. So once the ratification completes, it will become the 32 member of NATO. Okay, so you may get the question that which of the following country recently became the 31st member of NATO? That is actually Finland. Okay, that is actually Finland. And total number of member countries in NATO as of now, 31 member countries. Okay, now understand the countries which are part of NATO. Okay, so countries which are actually part of NATO. So uh, May 18, Finland and Sweden formally applied to join NATO. Okay, on May 18. So it is maybe last year May 18. So they applied for membership of NATO. So you can see here these are member countries represented in blue and green. So all these countries are member countries of NATO. However, with the exception of Ukraine. Okay, so with the exception of Ukraine has not yet become a member of NATO. However, it has shown interest to become the member of NATO, and that has led to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia. However, significant parts of Ukraine, the eastern parts, the industrialized parts of Donbass region is still under the control of Russia. Okay, still under the control of Russia. Okay, so recently Finland became the 31st member of the NATO grouping, and Sweden membership is also under the process. Sweden technically has not yet become member of the grouping, but it is under the process. Okay, so apart from that, the member countries which are not part of NATO grouping, despite being part of Europe, includes Switzerland, Austria, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia. Okay, so these are some of the member countries which do not part of which are not part of the NATO grouping. Okay, please remember this as well. Now, what is NATO? What is NATO? So, NATO is a military alliance, and it was established by the North Atlantic Treaty. Okay, so this was established through a North Atlantic Treaty, and it is a military alliance based on the collective security. Okay, it is based on collective security, and it was against Soviet Union. And NATO was called Washington Treaty, or it was formed through the Washington Treaty in the year 1949 April. In the year 1949 April. Okay, so the founding members of the NATO grouping includes United States, Canada, and several Western European nations. Okay, so their primary goal and the objective is to provide collective security against the Soviet Union or the Soviet expansion. So currently there are 31 member countries. Currently there are 31 member states in the NATO grouping. Okay, in the NATO grouping. So the original members of NATO grouping include Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, United Kingdom, and United States. So, in the meantime, several other countries were also become part of the NATO grouping. Okay, in the year 2020, North Macedonia also become part of the NATO, and 31 member country is Finland. Okay. However, France withdrew from the integrated military command of NATO in the year 1966, but remained a member of organization. France remained a member of organization, but it was withdrawn from integrated military command of NATO in the year 1966. However, it resumed its position in NATO's military command in the year 2009. It again resumed its membership in the year 2009. Recently, Finland and Sweden have shown interest to join NATO. Finland has already become the member of NATO. Okay, the headquarters of the NATO is located in Brussels, Belgium. The headquarter of command is located in Mons, and Mons that is located in Belgium. Okay, the headquarters is located in Brussels, and headquarters of Allied Command Operations, Mons, Belgium. Now understand what this article has been emphasizing upon. Okay, so this article has been saying that uh, Finland has become the 31st member of the NATO grouping. Finland has been sharing extensive or large geographical border with Russia. So in this respect it is very significant. Okay, in this respect it is very significant, since Finland has not been aligned with any major country or any major power in the past, but now Finland openly joining the NATO grouping is a much significant aspect, along with the Finland sharing its boundary or the border with the Russia. Okay, so uh, NATO has almost doubled its borders with Russia, with Finland joining as the 31st member of the NATO in April 2023. Okay, so Sweden will become a member eventually. Okay, so which will swell NATO's territorial expanse like never before. So this will further increase NATO's territorial expanse and never before. Okay, so it is also called as NATO's it is also called as Baltic Sea as NATO Lake. So where is Baltic Sea is located? This is actually the location. This is actually the location of the Baltic Sea. Okay. So these are the Baltic countries: Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. These countries together called as Baltic nations, and this is Baltic Sea. And Baltic Sea shares its borders with Sweden, Finland, Latvia, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Okay, just remember this along with Poland. Okay, please remember this. And apart from this, the article has also been discussing about, for long these Nordic countries like Finland and Sweden refuse to take sides. Okay, so even though Norway is also a Nordic country, it has not become it is already become part of the NATO grouping. It is already become the part of the NATO grouping. However, the Nordic countries like Finland and Sweden refuse to take sides. Okay, they refuse to take sides, maintaining their military non-alignment. They maintain friendly ties with both Russia and also the West, Europe, and the US. Okay, however, the Russia-Ukraine war has forced these countries to look for the membership in the NATO grouping. Okay, so the earlier they being focused more and more on internal socio-economic development. So their respective socio-economic development they taken care of. So because of the non-alignment, the military non-alignment, and their increasing focused on internal socio-economic development, they are the model for modern welfare states. Okay, so the Scandinavian countries, the Nordic countries are ideal for the modern welfare states. Okay, we very often take it as a case study, the Nordic countries or the Scandinavian countries, whenever we are writing an essay, whenever we are writing an example. So therefore, when they focused on their internal socio-economic development, they emerged over a period of time as modern welfare states. Now, after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, they changed the perception of the Nordic countries or the Scandinavian countries. Okay, so they had viewed their eastern neighbor, that is Russia. They had viewed their eastern neighbor Russia and the predictability of its leader Vladimir Putin. The Russian president is Vladimir Putin. So they have changed their perceptions about the Russia, about their eastern neighbor Russia, and the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. So Putin's actions have brought certain changes in the regional security dynamics in Europe. So Putin's actions, whether it is aggression, more aggression, assertiveness on the part of Russia, and also the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, have changed the regional security dynamics in Ukraine. Okay, they have changed the regional security dynamics in Europe. Okay, so Russian actions and European unity. So there is no doubt saying that the actions in the European Union, the actions are taken by Russia, have brought more and more unity in the European Union. There is no doubt about that, because earlier several countries which are not even part of NATO are becoming NATO, and European Union countries have also shedding their differences. Okay, they have also been shedding their differences and they are coming together, because this is evident from the fact that when it comes to European Union countries engaging with Russia, there was a differences of opinion. Okay, so there were several differences among the member states when it comes to engaging with Russia. However, some European countries like Germany and France, they have a very soft corner towards Russia. Okay, so earlier they used to have a very soft corner towards Russia. However, after the Russia-Ukraine war, the differences have been narrowed down. Okay, the differences have been narrowed down, and the European Union countries have been coming together. Okay, so these countries have been coming together. So unlike Germany and France, which have a soft corner towards Russia, there are other countries, the Baltic nations. So what are the Baltic nations? Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. So they do not have any such soft corner. Okay, so their views are completely different on Russia when you compare the views of Germany and France. Okay, so Russia's actions have united the European countries, and more than before. Okay, so more than before, the actions of the Russia-Ukraine war or Russia's invasion of Ukraine have united the European Union countries. And Putin might not have expected that Finland and Sweden would give up their neutrality soon. Okay, so this is beyond the expectation of Putin, Russian President Vladimir Putin, that Sweden and Finland would give up their neutrality or the military non-alignment. So, as response to this, Russia will build its military presence in the adjoining northern areas. Okay, Russia will further increase its military presence in the northern areas, because now Sweden will become a member of NATO. Finland already become a member of NATO. So Finland becoming a member of NATO would make the NATO forces standing on the frontiers of Russia. Okay, so borders near Russia, and deployment of forces, deployment of weapons would further make Russian more and more anxious. Okay, so having NATO and its Finnish door will further fuel Russian anxiety over a period of time. Okay, now understand. So the spotlight is on the Arctic. So we have discussed about the Finland membership in the NATO and how this will change the overall European security architecture. Okay, now the spotlight is also on the Arctic, because the Arctic region is also lies in the north of Russia. So this is lies the Arctic region lies in the north of Russia, along with the northern border of several Nordic countries that include Sweden, Finland, and Norway. Okay, so apart from the immediate border areas, the other region where Nordic countries, or for the matter NATO, may face a standoff with Russia, that includes Arctic region. Okay, so that includes Arctic region. There will be a confrontation, a military confrontation, even in the Arctic region, with respect to and between Russia and the NATO member countries. However, the Arctic region has received a little attention. So Arctic region is well known for us because of the reasons like climate change, prospects for harnessing untapped oil and gas and mineral resources. Okay, so it is traditionally not known, not well known when it in respect to the conflict, the military conflict. Okay, however, Finland becoming the member of NATO along with Sweden will bring this conflict even to the Arctic region. Okay, this conflict even to the Arctic region. So this is very sensitive region. Arctic region is very sensitive region because this region is already facing the impacts of climate change and exploitation, over exploitation of resources, whether it is oil and natural resources or the fishery resources. Okay, now because of this reason there is a chances that it will receive a wider attention, and it will create unexpected and complex challenges in the coming days. Okay, so Arctic region and the conflict in the Arctic region will create unexpected and complex challenges. So apart from what are the member countries of the Arctic Council? So there is an Arctic Council, we all know that there is an Arctic Council. And what are the member countries of the Arctic Council? The member countries include United States, Canada, Russia, and several Nordic countries like Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Finland. Okay, so these countries share their border with the Arctic region. So therefore, these are all the member countries. See, these are all the member countries of the Arctic Council. So NATO's membership for Nordic countries has brought a new geostrategic dimension. Okay, so it has brought a new geostrategic dimension to the Arctic's future, because Finland and Sweden becoming members of the NATO grouping will change the geostrategic dimension, will bring the conflict to the Arctic region as well. Because Russia's options include cohabitation rather than the confrontation with NATO. This is one such option which has been suggested, or which has been given in this article. Okay, rather than the confrontation, cohabitation with the member countries of NATO is one option. So what will be the complications or the implications for India because of all these aspects? The Nordic countries becoming member countries, and there has been an increasing NATO border with the Russia. So what will be the implications for India? Okay, so India has a limited engagement with respect to NATO, and this engagement mostly confined to a few political dialogues. Okay, a very few political dialogues between India and the NATO grouping. However, India has maintained a strategic silence over NATO's recent expansionism. Okay, NATO has been expanding since its inception. It has been expanding further even after the collapse of the Soviet Union in the year 1989. The even after the collapse, or even after the end of the Cold War, even after the end of the Cold War, the expansionism of expansionism of the NATO has not come came to an end. Okay, so India, however, maintained a strategic silence over NATO's recent expansion. China has maintained a strong stance against NATO's existence and outreach in the Indo-Pacific region. So there is a recent sustained interest in the NATO grouping itself, that it wanted to expand, or it wanted to increase its outreach towards the Indo-Pacific region. However, this has been strongly opposed by the China, which has been trying to increase its influence. Okay, China has been trying to increase its influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Okay, so because it is fearing that its sphere of influence would be further limited if NATO would expand, or NATO's outreach into the Indian Ocean region. Okay, so however, the China's bonding, Russia and China's bonding would make these two countries strategically and militarily more and more closer. Okay, so this is uh, this is at the cost of India's relations with Russia. Okay, so it will impact India's interests. Okay, when Russia and China coming together militarily and strategically, this will impact India's interests. Okay, clearly impact India's interests. So this is the one such impact. Okay, this is one such impact. The second impact include in recent times there has been an increased interest on the part of India towards the Nordic countries. Okay, because in India's strategic radar, the importance of Nordic region has increased. So this is evident from the fact that there was a second India Nordic summit that was held in the year 2022. Okay, second India Nordic summit that was held in the year 2022, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi even attended this meeting. Okay, so this meeting has underlined India's deep interest in cooperation with the Nordic countries, deep interest in uh, its cooperation with the Nordic countries. However, Nordic countries increasingly going into the ambit of NATO grouping, and its conflict with Russia would further make India's position little complicated and the complex. Okay, so the region will now come under the NATO's umbrella, will complicate India's strategic choices. Okay, so India has observer status in the Arctic Council. We have discussed the Arctic Council as well. So the member countries of Arctic Council, but India is not a member of the Arctic Council, but India enjoys the observer status in the Arctic Council. India also pursues the Arctic policy to promote multi-level cooperation. Okay, to promote the multi-level cooperation with countries, strategic cooperation, cooperation in the areas of climate change, and for the well-being. In order to promote the multi-level cooperation, India has a Arctic policy. Okay, so India's global actor role will be tested. So India claims itself as a leading power. Okay, it is a global power. So its claim or its role as a global actor will be tested in the view of new European security architecture. There is an emerging new European security architecture, and India's role as a global actor will be tested without a doubt. Okay, and it is contested by Russia and led by USA or led by NATO. So this is all about this article. So this article is also very important for paper 2. Okay, this article is very important for paper 2. Okay, please go through all these points. Now the next very important news article is Supreme Court to pronounce a verdict on center Delhi tussle. Okay, so Delhi versus center. The question is who has control over the bureaucrats? Who has the control over bureaucrats? Okay, so Delhi is not a state. Delhi is not a full-fledged state. Delhi is in fact a union territory. Delhi is in fact a union territory. So there was a constant tussle or constant conflict between the democratically elected government, that is the Aam Aadmi Party, and also between the lieutenant governor. Okay, between the lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governor is appointed by the president. Okay, lieutenant governor is appointed by the president. Okay, so there are some a different kind of an administrative setup in Delhi different to other other union territories. Okay, Supreme Court scheduled to deliver its judgment on the prolonged legal tussle between the Arvind Kejriwal led Aam Aadmi Party government and also between the center or the lieutenant governor who represent the center. Okay, so this is with respect to the control over bureaucrats. Okay, this is with respect to the control over bureaucrats who are deployed in various Delhi government departments. Okay, so the center has been claiming that the Delhi government do not have an effective control over the bureaucrats, an effective control over the bureaucrats. Even though the center has been claiming that the Delhi government have the functional control. It has the functional control over the bureaucrats. It do not have the administrative it do not have the administrative control over the bureaucrats. So when Delhi government do not have the administrative control over the bureaucrats, it cannot make appointments or it cannot make transfers of appointments. It cannot make transfers or appointments of officers. Okay, that has been amounting to severely curtailing the powers of the democratically elected government. However, The reason or the rationale the union has been giving or the center has been giving that uh, Delhi is unique. The national capital territory of Delhi has been unique because of increasing challenges like and terrorism, extremism, and also Delhi being the capital center should there is a need on the part of the center to maintain the administrative control on the bureaucrats maintain the administrative control on the bureaucrats. Okay. So this is actually the difference of opinion between the center and the government, the democratically elected government. So the reason and the rationale the elected government giving is that so we are democratically elected. We are representing people uh, in union national capital territory of Delhi. So when we do not have powers to transfer or appoint officers, when we do not have control over the officers, how can we carry the administration? How can we carry the administration? Okay, so this matter is being referred to the Supreme Court for taking up a decision. Okay, this matter has been referred to the Supreme Court. However, please remember in the year 2018 also Supreme Court gave a verdict. Okay, so in the year 2018 also Supreme Court gave a verdict. In 2018 verdict, Supreme Court said that both center and states or the Delhi Union Territory government or the democratically elected government in Delhi should follow the path of collaborative federalism. Okay, so they should follow the path of collaborative federalism. So this term, the collaborative federalism term, was coined by the court in July 2018 judgment. Okay, so this meant that both center and Delhi government should lay aside their differences, whatever differences they have, they should lay aside their differences and they should show a mature statesmanship in their relationship. Okay, so there should not be any conflict or there should not be any tussle between the center and the Delhi government. Okay, they should work in the collaborative federalism spirit. Okay, collaborative federalism should be a spirit, and they should set their differences aside and they should work for the welfare and the well-being of the people who are living in the national capital territory of Delhi. However, this was the judgment delivered by a constitutional bench. Okay, the constitutional bench comprises of five or more judges. Okay, so and held that the two powers, center and Delhi government, were interdependent. Okay, so they were not independent, they are independent interdependent on each other. The Delhi government will depend on the center and center will depend on the Delhi government, so that the collaborative federalism is possible in Delhi. The collaborative federalism, union and the state government should express their readiness to achieve common objective. Okay, so they should work together for achieving the common objective. Okay, so this advice seemed to have gone unheeded. So this advice by the Supreme Court has not yielded any positive result because it was delivered in the year 2018, and immediately after the judgment, both center and states again, uh, there was a tussle between the center and state over different issues. Okay, so the second constitution bench was also constituted with respect to the control, the administrative control over the bureaucrats. Okay, over the question. And the second constitution bench of the Supreme Court had to deliver its judgment on this administrative control over the bureaucrats, and the judgment will be delivered today. Okay, so another judgment in the Delhi versus center dispute. Okay, Delhi versus center dispute, and this time the dispute is over the control over the bureaucrats. Okay, so in the year 2018 the judgment declared that Delhi government has exclusive executive powers over the lists which are in state list and also in the concurrent list, except through three areas, except three areas. So what are the three areas? Land is one area, police is the other area. Okay, land, police, and public order. So in these matters, the center or the union government have the ultimate power. Okay, so this was the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court. It had a cautioned the lieutenant governor to only intervene in matters of fundamental to Delhi, which could be escalated to president. Okay, so the lieutenant governor of Delhi should act in aid and advice of the council of ministers who are democratically elected by the people in Delhi. Okay, so in case of a difference of opinion between the council of ministers and the lieutenant governor in Delhi, this matter should be referred by the lieutenant governor to the president. Okay, this is also constitutionally mandated, and ultimately the president will take the appropriate decision. However, the lieutenant governor should not refer every matter to the president. Okay, so this is against the spirit of federalism and also the democracy. Okay, so earlier also Supreme Court has given a judgment regarding this aspect. Now try and understand what exactly is the governance model of New Delhi. So what is the governance model of New Delhi? So the governance model of New Delhi is governed by Indian Constitution Article 239 AA. Okay, so 239 AA. This article governs the administrative model or the governance model in New Delhi. The status of Delhi being a union territory is mentioned in the first schedule of the constitution, but it is christened as a national capital territory under article 239 AA. Okay, so it is a union territory under schedule 1 of the constitution, but it is a national capital territory under article 239 AA. Okay, so the 239 AA of the Indian constitution was inserted through the 69th constitutional amendment act. Okay, so the it was inserted as part of the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of Constitutional Amendment Act. The Union Territory of Delhi to be administered by the Lieutenant Governor. He has to work on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers elected by the Legislative Assembly. Okay, Legislative Assembly. So the Council of the Lieutenant Governor should also mandatorily act on aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. However, the aid and advice clause pertains to only matters on which elected assembly has powers. That includes both state list and the concurrent list except three aspects. What are they? Public order, police and land. In the matters of public order and police land, the Council of Ministers opinion or the Council of Ministers advice to the Lieutenant Governor will not be will not be binding. Okay, will not be binding on the lieutenant governor. Okay, so except public order, police, land, all other matters, the lieutenant governor mandatorily act on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. So apart from this article 239 AA, it also notes that lieutenant governor has to either act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers or he is bound to implement the decision taken by the president. Okay, so he has to act on two premises. One is he should act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, and also he is bound to implement if any decision is taken by the president on the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Okay, apart from this, Article 239 AA empowers the Lieutenant Governor in case of a difference of opinion on any matter which is referred to him or advised by the Council of Ministers. That matter should be referred by the Lieutenant Governor to the President. Okay, Lieutenant Governor to the President. Okay, so this dual control, the control of the President or the Union government indirectly, the control of the union government and the elected government and the democratically elected government, very often leading to the power tussle in Delhi. Okay, this has been very often leading to the power tussle in Delhi. So this is all about the power tussle. So please remember Article 239A, and this was inserted through the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, 69th Constitutional Amendment Act. So recent tussle between the center and the Delhi government is with respect to bureaucrats, the control over the bureaucrats. Okay, control over the bureaucrats, whether it is about the administrative control or the functional control of the bureaucrats. So the next important news article is India US strengthen G20 cooperation during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit. Okay, so both countries have been looking forward to strengthen the G20 cooperation. So see, there are a wide variety of issues between uh, you know uh, wide variety of areas where India and USA have a common interest. Okay, they have a common interest, and these two countries also have a shared concern or shared vision. So therefore, these two countries have been working together on several such issues. The issues or the areas include technology, trade, industry, education, research, clean energy, defense, security, healthcare, deepening people to people connections. Okay, so these are all the areas where India and USA will work together. Now, apart from this, India and USA will also work together on any other global issues, because we all know that India currently holds the presidency of the G20 summit. Okay, so what is G20? We will uh, look about the G20 in the next slide. Okay, so India and USA also decided to work together on G20, not just on G20 but also with respect to Quad, and G7 meeting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also invited. Okay, so in all these areas, several aspects of a mutual concern or the global concern will be discussed. Okay, India and USA have a shared vision for free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, and they will discuss opportunities to expand or consolidate their Quad engagement. So, what are the members of Quad? Okay, there was an Eastern Quad in the Indo-Pacific region, and the member countries of the Eastern Quad include India, USA, Japan, and Australia. Japan and Australia. So there was also a Western Quad or the Middle Eastern Quad. Okay, Western Quad or the Middle Eastern Quad. So there are two quad groupings. Okay, there are two quad groupings. So one grouping is otherwise called as I2U2. I2U2. So this grouping member countries include Israel, India, UAE, and United States. So there is another quad grouping. In this grouping, Saudi Arabia also included, but um, there is no Israel. There is no place for Israel. Okay, so there is two quads in the Middle East, and India and USA are part of all the quad in the region. Okay, so since they have a shared vision, they have a common vision, so they together work for free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, and they will also discuss opportunities to expand and consolidate the existing quad engagement. Okay, and they will also focus on expansion in educational exchanges, climate change, workforce development, health, security, etc. Okay, so they will discuss all these issues, because these issues are very important for the uh, healthy relationship between India and USA. Now, please understand the G20 grouping. G20 grouping is also very important. So, G20 grouping is formed in the year 1999 aftermath of the Asian financial crisis. Okay, Asian financial crisis. Now, this is a group of 20 countries. This is the group of 20 countries. This is actually a premier forum for international economic cooperation. This is actually a premier forum for international economic forum for economical cooperation. It is made up of 19 countries and the European Union. Okay, 19 countries plus European Union consists of G20, and it represents world's major developed and emerging economies. It represents major developed and emerging economies. So these are all the member countries. See, UPSC already asked the member countries of the G20 grouping, member countries of the G20 grouping. So please go through all the member countries of G20 grouping, right from Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, India, Italy, Mexico, Turkey, European Union, US, United Kingdom, South Africa, Arabia, Saudi Arabia, uh, Republic of Korea, Russia, Japan, Indonesia, Germany. Okay, so these are all the member countries, the 19 member countries plus European Union members of G20 grouping. Each year, the presidency invites guest countries to participate. Spain is invited as a permanent guest to. Spain is not a member. Okay, so neither Spain nor Portugal are members of the G20 grouping. However, Spain is invited as a permanent guest to G20. So, see, the next important news article is study on sludge finds high potential for use as fertilizer after treatment. Okay, so this is with respect to the sewage treatment plant. Okay, we very often hear about the sewage treatment plants. Sewage treatment plants. So, the sewage treatment plants treat the sewage water or the urban wastewater, urban municipal wastewater. Because what happening is the urban municipal wastewater, urban municipal, uh, municipal wastewater is often released into this water is often released into the rivers, okay, without actually treating the wastewater. When the water often released into the rivers without treating, this will increase the levels of pollution. This will increase the levels of pollution in the river water, in the river water. And increasing levels of pollution in the river water will lead to these several consequences, like the eutrophication of rivers or water bodies. Okay, eutrophication of rivers because of heavy metals. The wastewater consists of heavy metals and several such minerals. Okay, so these minerals lead to the eutrophication of the rivers and will also increase the biological oxygen demand in the rivers. When there is a higher biological oxygen demand, that will also create dead zones in the rivers. That will also create dead zones in the rivers. Okay, so rivers become functionally dead. Okay, so when pollution increasing in the rivers, then rivers become ecologically dead. Okay, ecologically dead because of in order to avoid all these ill consequences, the center and various state governments have been focusing on setting up sewage water treatment plants. Sewage water treatment plants, primarily in the areas where the wastewater is being released into the rivers like Ganga. Okay, so as part of National Mission for Clean Ganga, as part of the National Mission for Clean Ganga, the Uttar Pradesh government has set up sewage treatment plants across the urban areas. So across the urban areas which are located on the banks of river Ganga. Okay, so these sewage treatment plants rightly treat the urban wastewater and release the water into rivers so that the pollution levels would be minimized. Okay, so when these sewage treatment plants are treating the wastewater, they release the treated water into rivers or they will use the water again. However, on the bottom of these on the bottom of the sewage treatment plants, there remains a sludge. Okay, there remains a sludge. So this sludge contains several heavy metals, bacteria, and organic materials. Okay, so this sludge has a potential to be used as a biofertilizer. Okay, biofertilizer. So when this sludge is used as a biofertilizer, then it gives impetus to organic farming efforts, and this will also significantly reduces our dependence on the chemical fertilizers, significantly reduces our dependence on chemical fertilizers. Along with that, it will significantly improve the fertility of soils. Okay, it will also improve the fertility of soils. So these are the advantages of using sludge as a, you know, the biofertilizer. However, the sludge is divided into two categories. Okay, so the two categories include class A sludge and class B sludge. Okay, the class A sludge is completely safe. Okay, it is completely safe, and it can be disposed of in the open air, and it can also directly used as a biofertilizer in agriculture. However, the class B type of sludge cannot be directly used as a biofertilizer because of its hazardous or a harmful nature. Okay, so however, India so far does not have such a classification of a sludge. Okay, so this is however part of the Ardh Ganga program. Okay, this is part of the Ardh Ganga program. So what is Ardh Ganga? Ardh Ganga is actually the economic value from the river Ganga. Economic value of river Ganga. See, the government of UP has set up a sewerage water treatment plant, and the recycled water either released into the river or the recycled water will be used again. Okay, recycled water will be used again, or this water can be sold to other purposes, and sludge can be used for generation of biogas, or sludge can also be used as a biofertilizer. So economic benefits are being derived from setting up such a sewage treatment plants. Okay, so all these activities together called as Ardh Ganga. Okay, deriving economic value from the river Ganga. Okay, just remember the Ardh Ganga program and sludge. So on the right side there are benefits of sludge. Okay, there are benefits of sludge. So improved growth of bioenergy crops. So sludge can be used for the growth of bioenergy crops, and this will also increases the fungal spores, and also increases the root colonization, and it will also increases the rhizobium bacteria. Okay, rhizobium bacteria, they are very often the nitrogen fixing bacteria. See, this is more economic than the synthetic chemical fertilizers, more economical, and it is also rightly accessible for the farmers. Okay, so this is the long-term sludge application will be beneficial for the soil and also for the crops. Okay, so less energy input and sludge disposed of safely. So these are some of the advantage of sludge being used as a biofertilizers. So the next very important news article is with respect to the price fixed by the Center for Sugarcane not fair at all. This is said by the Madras High Court. Okay, this is the opinion of the Madras High Court. However, please remember, when it comes to sugarcane, the center not announces the minimum support prices. However, the center announces the fair and remunerative prices. Okay, fair and remunerative prices. The fair and remunerative prices is actually the minimum price which at which the rate sugarcane is to be purchased by sugar mills from farmers. There are several sugar mills across different parts of the country, and at this rate, the fair and remunerative price, this is actually the minimum price, and this at this price the sugar mills purchase sugarcane from the farmers. So the fair and remunerative price is actually fixed by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Okay, this price is fixed by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs on the recommendations of Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. And the very same commission also recommends the minimum supporting prices for at least 22 other crops, at least 22 other crops. Okay, so the methodology of determining the fair and remunerative prices taking it will arrive at taking into different factors. So they include the cost of production of sugarcane and the demand supply situation in the market, and also domestic international prices, intercrop price parity. Okay, please remember all these aspects, and based on these aspects the fair and remunerative prices are decided by the Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. Okay, so the fair and remunerative prices of sugarcane is actually determined by the Sugarcane Control Order 1966. Okay, Sugarcane Control Order 1966 determines the fair and remunerative prices of sugarcane. So the benefits of fair and remunerative prices assures margins to farmers. It assures the proper margins to farmers, irrespective of sugar mills either generate profit or not. Okay, so even they generate profit or not, but they should give the fair and remunerative prices for the farmers. However, this will be uniformly applicable all over the country. The fair and remunerative prices will be uniformly applicable to the farmers all across the states. Okay. However, few states like Punjab, Haryana, Uttarakhand, UP, Tamil Nadu announces the state advised price. Okay. Over and above the fair and remunerative price, these states are also announcing the state advised price. Okay, state advised price. The state advised price is always higher than the fair and remunerative prices. Okay, the state advised price is always higher than the fair and remunerative prices, so that it will benefit the farmers. Okay, however, in recent judgment, Madras High Court held that the fair and remunerative prices being announced by the center are very low. Okay, so they are very low, so that the farmers are now being increasingly dependent on the state advised prices. Okay, so please remember all these points. These are extremely important for the examination. Okay, next important news article is Indian Council of Medical Research conducts a trial run of blood bag delivery through drone. Okay, so in recent times there has been an increasing use of drones, or increasing use of drones for various activities, and Indian Council of Medical Research successfully conducted a trail run delivery of blood bags through iDrone initiative. Okay, what is the iDrone initiative? iDrone initiative is ICMR's drone response and outreach for Northeast. Okay, so this is to assess the feasibility of using drone to deliver vaccines and also medicinal supplies, different medicines. So there are several areas which are generally not accessible. Okay, they are remote areas. So when they are not accessible, when they are a very low amount of you know medical facilities, then the use of drones could be leveraged to provide all these services. And this was carried out difficult geographical terrains, the northeast or the Western Ghats region, or several other areas. This includes land, island, foothills, and across the hills. The medical supplies delivered under the iDrone project include COVID-19 vaccines, vaccines used for routine immunization programs, and antenatal care medicines, and multivitamin syringes and gloves. Okay, so these are all aspects which are delivered successfully under the iDrone project. So the drone delivery system is focused on end-to-end ecosystem for drone-based logistic transportation within states. Okay, so however, this is the first successful example of delivering vaccines through drone from land to island in South Asia. Okay, so ICMR has successfully delivered the blood bags to through the iDrone initiative. Okay, so the inaugural trial flight carried 10 units of whole blood samples from two different areas. Okay, iDrone was first used during the COVID-19 pandemic by the ICMR, distributing vaccines to remote areas in the Northeast. Okay, so they also say that transporting blood and blood related products which are supposed to be kept at low temperature. So after the experiment, they found that these drones are not only maintain temperature, there was also no damage to the products transported through drugs. Okay, so overall this was a very successful operation by the ICMR, and in future also the use of drones for several other activities could be planned. Okay. These are all the very important and the necessary news articles for today's discussion. Okay, thank you.